All right, it's Mrs. Tremblay. It's time to do some lesson 9 practice. We are subtracting decimal values. So just like yesterday, you are going to want to have your grid paper, that dry erase grid paper in the sheet protector. You can do these in your spiral, you can do them on scrap paper, but I would really suggest solving them out on this because it just lets you keep your place values lined up a little bit easier. Up to you. As long as you're practicing, I'm good. So the easiest way to do this, because I'm gonna show you the problem horizontally and you're gonna rewrite it vertically. So I'm gonna drop this down, you'll see the problem. You'll press pause and write that problem on your grid paper and press play after you've solved it. Do that for each one. So here's your first one, 168 and 75 hundredths minus 59 and 82 hundredths. So press pause, solve it, press play when you're done. All right. So I'm going to scooch this paper over, and for number 1, I have my 168 and 75 hundredths minus 59 and 82 hundredths. This is how it needs to be written with your decimal points in the same spot so that your tenths are lined up and your hundredths are lined up. And now we subtract like normal. And remember, the commutative property does not work for subtraction. So you need to make sure that you're taking the top minus the bottom every time. 5 minus 2 is 3. I cannot do 7 minus 8. I can't take 8 away from 7, so I do need to borrow. I'm going to borrow from this 8 and make it a 7, and I'm going to give 1 to this 7. Well, actually, I'm going to give 10 to it, because now this 7 is 17. So 17 minus 8 would give us 9. My decimal point stays put, because this is the tens place, and if I don't put the decimal point, I'd have 93. It's not 93, it's 93 hundredths. Now I'm going to try to take 9 away from 7, and I can't. It's not 2. You can't do 9 minus 7 backwards. This problem is saying you have 7, take 9 away. So I need to borrow from this 6 and make it a 5. And I'm going to add 10 to this 7, which gives me 17 again. Now 17 minus 9 gives me 8. I know that because 8 plus 9 is 17. That's how that works, those inverses. 5 minus 5 is 0, and 1 minus empty box is 1. So you should have 108 and 93 hundredths for your answer. It never hurts to practice saying those also. Okay, ready for your next one? I hope so. So again, you're gonna wanna pause it, write it, solve it, press play. So here's your problem, 6,222 and 100th minus 48 and 4 tenths. So you're pausing the screen, writing it down on your grid paper, lining it up, solving it, press play when you're ready. Okay, number 2. 6,222 and 100th minus 48 and 4 tenths. This is how it should be lined up. The decimal points are lined up. And remember, if you see an empty box, that does mean 0, because 0 represents nothing. 1 minus 0 is 1. I cannot take 4 away from 0. So the answer to this isn't 4. You can't do 4 minus 0. I'm going to borrow from this 2. It's 1. I'm going to add 10 to this 0, which means I now have 10. 10 minus 4 is 6. Drop down your decimal. I can't take 8 away from 1, so I have to borrow from the 2. The 2 is 1. When I add 10 to this 1 that's already there, I now have 11. 11 minus 8, 8, 9, 10, 11. That's 3. So you can count up for things like that if it doesn't just pop into your head automatically. That's a strategy that would work. I can't take 4 away from 1, so I have to borrow again. I'm going to make this 2, 1. I add 10 to this 1, which makes 11 again. 11 minus 4 is 7. I know that one because 7 plus 4 is 11. 1 minus empty box is 1, and 6 minus empty box is 6. I'm going to put in my comma. Your answer is 6,173 and 61 hundredths. Here's your third problem. Problem number 3, 1 and 9 hundredths minus 7 tenths. Pause your screen, write it down, solve it. All right, for number 3, we have 1 and 9 hundredths minus 7 tenths. This is what it should look like, your decimal points lined up. I'm gonna put a 0 right here in this empty spot because 0 represents nothing and there was nothing there. 9 minus 0 is 9. 0 minus 7 isn't 7. You can't start with 0 and take 7 away. I have to borrow from this 1. So 1 is going to become 0, and I add 10 to the 0 that's already here, which gives me 10. 10 minus 7 I can do. That's 3. I bring down my decimal point, and 0 minus 0, of course, is 0. So the answer to this would be 39 hundredths. Okay, number 4, 37,000 minus 2 and 73 hundredths. So get this set up on your grid paper, solve it out, press play when you're ready. Okay, number 4, we have 37,000. So I'm gonna write that down first. And I'm gonna subtract 2 and 73 hundredths from it. Remember, if there's not a number in the tens place, we don't put a decimal point after the number. It's just not written that way, but we can assume that it is there. That will let me put my 2 and 73 hundredths down. So this is how it needs to be lined up. And where you see these empty boxes, you do need to put zeros there, especially for this one. Most common error is I just see people write the 73 down here. This is saying 0 minus 3. And if you have nothing, you can't take 3 away from it. So for this one, it's kind of tricky. We have to borrow across all these zeros. Because I know I need to borrow, but here, there's nothing. Here, there's nothing. Here, there's nothing. Here, there's nothing. Here, oh, finally we have it. So basically, we keep borrowing one at a time until we get back to where we need to go. I'm going to start with this 7. And when I borrow 1 from this 7, it becomes 6. And the digit right next to it is what gets the 10, right? So now instead of 0, I have 10. I'm not done yet because this is the one that needs it. So now I'm going to borrow from this 10 and make it 9, and it goes next door to this one. So now here I have 10. And now I'm going to give 1 to this. So I borrow from this 10, it's 9. I give 10 to this one. I am still not ready yet because this is the one that I need. So I'm going to borrow from this 10. It's 9. I give 10 to this one. Still not what I need. I borrow, make it a 9, give 10 to this one. And finally, we are set. All right. So 10 minus 3 is 7. 9 minus 7 is 2. I keep my decimal point there. And the good news is we're all set for the rest, right? 9 minus 2 is 7. And then I have 9 minus empty box, 9 minus empty box, 6 minus empty box, 3 minus empty box. I'm going to put my comma in 3 places over from that decimal point. And we get 36,997 and 27 hundredths. Okay, 3 more. Here's your number 5. 24 minus 18 hundredths. So pause it, write it, solve it, press play. All right, number 5. I have 24 and it's minus 18 hundredths. That means I'm gonna need a decimal point. And again, remember, it's right there even though we don't see it. We don't list it if there's not a number in the tens place, okay? Or hundredths or thousandths for that matter. If there are no digits to the right of the decimal point, we don't need to include it, but this one we need it because I have to know where to put my 18 hundredths, which it should look like that. And again, don't make the mistake of saying, oh, cool, there's nothing here, so I just can write 18. There is something here. When you see nothing, 0 is what represents nothing. So again, we need to borrow across these zeros. I can't take 8 away from 0. And I can't borrow from this 0 because this has nothing. So we're going to start over here with the 4. I borrow from the 4, it's 3. And I have to give that 10 next door. So now this is 10. Now I can borrow from this 10. It becomes 9 and give 10 to that one. So 10 minus 8 is 2. 9 minus 1 is 8. I keep my decimal point right there so that I still have my tenths and hundredths place. 3 minus 0 is 3, and 2 minus empty box is 2. So 23 and 82 hundredths is how you would say that answer. Okay, number 6, almost there. Okay, so 80,615 minus 74,468 and 63 hundredths. So press pause, write it down, solve it, press play. Okay, going over to my grid paper. Number 6, it was 80,615 minus 74,468 and 63 hundredths. This is exactly how it needs to be set up. This one didn't have a decimal point originally because I didn't have any numbers to the right of the decimal point, but I can put that in and fill in my zeros there. So this is what it looks like. I can't take 3 away from 0, and the first place I see that I can borrow from is this 5. So I'm going to borrow from the 5, it's 4, I give 10 next door. Now I can borrow from this 10. This is 9, and I give my 10 to this. Now we're in business. 10 minus 3 is 7. 9 minus 6 is 3. I keep my decimal point right there. I cannot take 8 away from 4. So I have to borrow from this 1. Now I have nothing. I add 10 to the 4, and 10 plus 4 is 14. 14 minus 8 is 6. I can't take 6 away from 0. I have to borrow. So 6 minus 1 is 5, and I give my 10 to this 0, so now I have 10. 10 minus 6 is 4. 5 minus 4 is 1. And right here, maybe you just look at this as 80 minus 74, and you're like, that is 6. That's fine. Or maybe you say, okay, well, I'm going to borrow from the 8 and make it 7 and give 10 to this 0, and 10 minus 4 is 6. Either way, it's fine. I do not need to put a 0 in front of this because you wouldn't see that 0 in front of this. This means 6,146 and 37 hundredths. We wouldn't put a 0 in front of 6,000, right? Okay, last problem. Grand finale. Number 7. 610,877 and 5/10 minus 22,948. Press pause, write it down, solve it. Press play. Okay, last one. So exciting. I have 610,877 and 5/10. And the number that I'm subtracting from it is 22,948. It should be set up just like this, so that my ones are with the ones, and tens and hundreds and thousands and 10,000s and so on. Now, I know there's not a decimal point that's given here because there wasn't a number to the right of the decimal point, but we can put that in there and we can put our 0. So I know I'm doing 5 minus 0, which I can actually do. 5 minus 0 is 5. I keep my decimal point where it is at so that can still represent 5/10. I cannot take 8 away from 7. So I'm going to borrow from 7. It is 6. When I add my 10 to this 7, it becomes 17. Some people, instead of putting the little one in front of that, would cross off the 7 and write 17 above it. I'm fine either way, as long as you know this is now 17. 17 minus 8 is 9, because 9 plus 8 is 17. I can do 6 minus 4. 6 minus 4 is 2. I cannot do 8 minus 9. I can't take 9 away from 8. And I can't borrow from this 0 here because they don't have anything to give. So I have to go over here to the 1. 1 now becomes 0, and this 0 is 10. Now I have enough to borrow to give to this 8. 10 would become 9, and this 8 becomes 18. 18 minus 9 is 9. 9 minus 2 is 7. I can't do 0 minus 2. Or maybe you're just looking at this as 60 minus 2, which is 58. And if you're not looking at it like that, it's fine. Borrow from this 6 and make it 5. I had 0 when I add 10, now it's 10. 10 minus 2 is 8, and 5 minus empty box is 5. I'm going to go ahead and make sure I put my commas in. 1, 2, 3. So answer for this one should be 587,929 and 5/10. You're all set with your practice. Thank you so much for working hard and watching this and completing all your problems. Good work.